1 in 3. That's how many American men will face physical violence, sexual assault, or stalking by an intimate partner. 1 in 3 women worldwide will endure physical or sexual abuse, most often by someone they know. But domestic abuse isn't just bruises. It's manipulation, it's fear, it's control that seeps into every part of your life. I'm Ingrid Dutton, and I survived it. Then I created 1 in 3 so no one else has to suffer in silence. Each week, we break that silence together. Occasionally joined by survivors, loved ones, and experts, we talk about the pain, yes, but also about the healing, resilience, and the fight to reclaim your life. This podcast is more than awareness, it's a lifeline. And a reminder, you are seen, you are heard, you are never alone. Search for 1 in 3 wherever you get your podcasts, because every voice matters and every story deserves to be heard.
So in this world, there's a lot of things we know and a lot of things we don't know. In honor of one of our faithful listeners, Edith, we decided to do 2 mysterious situations. So sit back, relax, and listen to the Mr. E. Hiya, sister.
Hiya, sister. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
So do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I want to go first. I never get to go first.
Okay. Uh-oh. All right. I just started a glass of wine, so hopefully I don't drink too much of it while you're going.
Slow down. Okay, so like you said in the intro, we never introduce ourselves or say anything about the podcast.
That's right. Welcome to another situation.
So in case you've never listened to us before, this is obviously it's a podcast on different situations or different stories. And if you go back and listen, we have a whole weird mixture. It kind of seems like there's really no like cohesiveness to the situations, which is probably pretty accurate.
Well, we kind of get general ideas from the whatever awareness month it is or whatever's going on, or if someone reaches out to us and has a situation they want to talk about. So
in our minds, there's cohesiveness and it makes sense in organization, but if
organized chaos.
Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's another situation. So every week is another situation. Mm-hmm. And this, like you said, this is one of our listeners had mentioned that she appreciates the mysterious stories. So
and that's Ingrid and I'm Jessica and we're sisters.
Right. And sometimes we sound similar, so it may be difficult to differentiate between the two.
Except for Ingrid sometimes has a twang in her voice.
Whatever, Texan. You do too.
I'm not a Texan. I just live in Texas.
Okay. Well, I just live in Tennessee. So either one of us may have a twang. But anywho. So we decided for our mysteries, we were going to do true stories. And I just Googled mysterious stories and there's a lot. And I'm medical. I try to do medical mysteries, but that is just too big of a task to handle.
Yeah, I bet. A lot of technical jargon, I'm sure. Or medical, yeah. I mean.
So I went all the way back to the 1800s to
Good Lord.
I know. Okay. To do a story on Charley Ross. And I got a little bit of the information from Wikipedia, of course, because that's just easy. But the majority of this I got from a book titled We Is Got Him, The Kidnapping That Changed America. And this is written by Carrie Hagen.
Okay.
All right. So I have a lot of pages, so I'm going to go through it quickly. Is there anything else we needed to say?
For our listeners, we can reiterate this at the end of the podcast, but we will be taking 2 weeks off.
Oh, yeah. We should probably do it at the beginning because people probably don't listen all the way through.
Yeah. So we're taking 2 weeks off to celebrate the 4th of July and to spend time with our families. So you won't hear from us for 2 whole weeks.
Lucky you.
Or unlucky you. You can go back and listen to your favorite episode.
Right. And again, if you're new to this podcast, at the beginning, we dropped a lot. So week 1, we dropped 5 episodes. And then for Black History Month, we did 3 in 1 week. So there is plenty of listening material out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Our goal was to keep these around 30 to 45 minutes. And I don't think there has been one there might be like 3 that's under an hour.
I think the one when we were in Cabo is the shortest one because we didn't want to do it.
No, we didn't.
Sorry, we wanted to go back outside in the sun and the water.
Understandably.
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. Charley Ross. Brief background. Germantown was initially settled by the Germans in 1683, and it was eventually absorbed into the Philadelphia city limits in 1854. And this story takes place in July of 1874. Christian Ross moved to Philadelphia when he was in his mid-20s. He and his brother put their inheritance toward a clothing store. The store did well until the Panic of 1873 when it began to falter. Christian met Sarah Ann Lewis at a Methodist church. In 1862, Christian was 38 and Sarah was 28. She had four older brothers who owned 3 very successful dry goods stores. I don't know why I'm having a difficult time speaking here. Perhaps due to the stress of marriage and financial struggles, or due to...
It's like you answered yourself. I don't know why I'm having trouble talking. Perhaps due to the stress of...
Okay, so perhaps due to the stress of marriage and financial struggles, or due to a quote illness that Christian used as an explanation, Sarah traveled and stayed in Atlantic City for the summer of 1874. So now we go to Wednesday, July 1st. 4-year-old Charley Ross and 5-year-old Walter Ross were excited for their dad to come home from work. They had been asking him to buy fireworks for the upcoming holiday. Although the firecrackers were illegal in the city limits, their father, Christian Ross, promised he would get them some once he had a wagon full of sand to muffle the noise. The boys were 2 of 7 children and were desperately bored over the summer. Their older sister, Sophia, was on holiday with their mom, Sarah Lewis Ross, in Atlantic City. Their 2 older brothers were with her grandmother in central Pennsylvania. That left the 2 boys with 1 older and 1 younger sister in the house. The boys had bathed, then asked their 2 nannies if they could play outside while waiting for their father to return home.
Dang, 2 nannies?
Oh, yeah, there were, and you know what? I forgot to write it down. There was kind of a house full of servants. So not bad for a faltering business.
No kidding.
So Christian was due around 6 p.m. And when he returned home, the boys were not waiting for him. This only mildly surprised him, and he just read the newspaper while he waited on the front porch. When the boys weren't home for dinner, he became very concerned. He divided his households of servants, again, I don't know how many, into search parties. While outside searching, his neighbor, Mary Kidder, asked Christian if his boys were likely to speak with strangers. She had noticed the 2 speaking with a man earlier, then ride away with him in a wagon.
Oh, no.
So now we're going to go back a little bit. So that was Wednesday, July 1st. Saturday, June 27th, Mr. Johnson, who is a neighbor, saw a man with 3-inch whiskers offer the boys candy. Christian recalls Walter running to him that day holding a 4-inch long piece of candy. He said a man in a wagon gave he and Charley the candy. Both boys denied talking to the men in the wagon. Christian, at the time, thought it was very kind for the men to have noticed children and give them candy.
Mm. Did she say 3-inch whiskers?
3-inch whiskers, yeah.
So wouldn't that be a beard?
Well, I don't know if it was like a full beard or if it was just like sprockety whiskers kind of sticking out, like a mustache or something maybe. I don't know.
All right. Just wondering. That was weird.
Well, yeah, I actually didn't think it was weird until you just said that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Sunday, June 28th, a few people in town saw strangers in a wagon wave to the boys as they left church. Monday, June 29th, a handyman heard the stranger talk to the boys on the street and offering them candy. Tuesday, June 30th, a doctor making a house call takes note of a wagon parked in the sun and not the shade, thinking normally you park in the shade to keep the horse cool.
Mm-hmm.
A passenger hopped over the fence adjacent to the Lewises, so again, that's Christian's in-laws, and got into the wagon. They noticed the doctor watching them as they drove by and pulled a curtain over the back of the wagon as they drove by. So now we're back to Wednesday, July 1st. After speaking with Mrs. Kidder, her husband, Walter Kidder, walked with Christian to the police department. The time was approximately 8 p.m. On the way to the 14th precinct, the two men saw a red, puffy-eyed Walter Ross holding firecrackers and walking toward them with a man named Henry Peacock. Mr. Peacock had noticed Walter further in town, actually in Kensington. He was terrified and talking to women. Mr. Peacock asked Walter what was going on, and as he began to cry, he said a man had put him out of a buggy and left him. Walter didn't mention any other people. Mr. Peacock then began to walk Walter home. When Christian asked Walter where Charley was, he replied, "Why, he is all right. He is in the wagon." The poor 5-year-old thought he was abandoned and Charley was the safe one. At this point, Christian wrote down Mr. Peacock's address and had him continue to walk Walter Ross home as he and Walter Kidder continued toward the police station. Upon arrival to the police station, the two men informed Lieutenant Alexander Buchanan, who was the commanding officer on duty of the earlier events. The lieutenant wired a telegraph to Central Police Headquarters asking about a missing child. He returned 30 minutes later and said no missing boy had been found. Naturally, he then told Christian to calm down and assured him Charley would eventually turn up. He initially told Christian there was nothing more he could do, and Christian kept persisting. And then the lieutenant eventually said that he should contact Captain William Hines at the Central Police Headquarters. Christian and Mr. Kidder returned toward home. Christian stopped at his brother-in-law's house. He relayed all of the events to his brother-in-law, Joseph, as well as Joseph's son, Frank. Mr. Kidder continued home. At that point, Joseph thought Christian should follow the advice of the lieutenant. Christian took his nephew Frank with him as they traveled to Central Headquarters. They arrived around 11 o'clock p.m., and the captain had just left for the night. I know. The detective who was there listened to the story. He believed Charley was taken by drunks who would eventually sober up and drop Charley off somewhere. He said there was nothing more the police could do.
Wow.
So one thing that this was later in the book that this was mentioned, but I can just go ahead and mention it now. When Christian initially moved to Germantown, there was no police force. And it was kind of just, people would try to, I guess, sort of be vigilantes. And the police force was kind of a not respected thing at the time. Christian and Frank traveled to Kensington and began to walk around where Walter was found. They knocked on doors. However, whomever answered was unable to provide any additional information. They returned home around 5 a.m.
And why is it such a good excuse that, it's probably a bunch of drunk men that picked up your kid?
Why is that okay?
Yeah, that should be alarming.
Right. There are so many things in this book. And obviously, it's 1874. So truly a different world. But this is a first publicized kidnapping in the United States, in the history of the United States. But there had been multiple kidnappings that had happened previous to this. All right. So I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I think it kind of adds to this story. So we are back to July 1st. So the initial July 1st, we heard Christian's account of what happened. So now we have Peter Callahan was a gardener in the neighborhood, and he had noticed the two boys playing outside because early in the day there had been barbecues and kids playing all over the place, and it got noticeably quieter, and he only heard the voices of the two boys outside. He also noticed as a black wagon came down the street which was pulled by a brown horse with a white spot on its forehead and a rusted harness. The driver was a redhead with a sandy-colored mustache and was approximately 30 years old. He was wearing oversized eyeglasses, a gray coat, gold vest chain, and a tall, dark-colored straw hat. The passenger, who was notably shorter and older than the driver, had dark hair and held a red handkerchief to his face. When he removed the handkerchief, his dark mustache with stray whiskers coming from his square jaw were revealed. He had a deformed nose which seemed to point toward his forehead. The two boys hopped into the wagon after being promised firecrackers. The wagon went a different direction than what Walter anticipated. The men lied and said they were going to go to a different store. The wagon made frequent turns, so Walter asked the men to describe the landscape. They did so in great detail. Walter noticed the cartilage was worn away in the passenger's nose. He also noted an oddly pointed finger on his left hand. Charley, who was placed on the lap of the passenger, began to whimper as they continued to drive further and further away from home.
I'm sorry, Charley was younger than Walter?
Yeah, so Charley was 4, Walter was 5.
Okay.
So not a huge difference. Finally, they arrived in Kensington. They found a store selling firecrackers and gave Walter money to go inside and buy some. When he initially went inside, he didn't really know what he wanted to order as far as the firecrackers were concerned. So the man behind the counter told Walter to go figure out what he wanted and to come back. So he ran back out to the wagon, and then when he came in, he gave exactly what his order should be. When he came back outside the wagon, the men and Charley were gone.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning, on July 2nd, Christian woke Walter up around 7 a.m. So Christian got home at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he's waking his son up at 7. The two of them walked to Joseph's house, where Walter and Christian told again the events of the previous day. Christian and Frank then traveled to police headquarters again, Central headquarters. This time they were able to find Captain Hines. Once again, they told their story. The other officers agreed it was probably drunks who took Charley. It's just a bunch of drunks, those crazy drunks. The captain, however, agreed to more investigating, and he assigned Officer Etwine Joyce to the case. They went back to Kensington, where they questioned the man who recalled selling the firecrackers to Walter. The man didn't notice anything else about Walter or whom he was with. They continued to question anyone who walks by. Most people recalled Walter crying. There was one little girl who saw Charley in the wagon, which drove away. Christian, Officer Joyce, and Walter Ross. I'm going to keep saying his last name because there's the other Walter guy.
Which is the father-in-law, right?
So the other Walter guy is a neighbor.
Oh, okay.
And then there's Joseph Lewis
Is the
brother-in-law, and his son Frank.
Which is the nephew. Okay.
The nephew. Mm-hmm. Which is confusing because Christian also has a brother named Joseph.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he comes up later. Okay. And so that Christian had gone back home. He grabbed Walter. He and Walter and Officer Joyce rode back to Kensington. On the way, Walter was able to map out the entire route as the two strangers had pointed things out to him. And as they were making all these twists and turns, they would stop occasionally and speak with some of the bystanders, and they recalled the wagon driving by with the two boys and the two men and the two boys. So it kind of validated Walter's recount.
Mm-hmm.
July 3rd, the newspaper, the Philadelphia Public Ledger, agreed to print an advertisement in the lost and found column, which was mixed in with all the other items. And I think it was like under a lost pair of gold earrings.
Oh my gosh.
Was now this. Lost a small boy about 4 years old, light complexion, and light curly hair. A suitable reward will be given by returning him to E.L. Joyce Central Police Station. And then any additional info was deliberately held because Christian didn't want his wife, Sarah, to inadvertently read about her son's disappearance because she was not aware that he was missing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that day at police headquarters, Mayor Stokely, the captain, the district attorney, and other detectives were present when Christian came back. This time, they all agreed that even if it were drunks that took Charley, there was malicious intent.
Oh, finally.
Finally. So now they've officially turned this into a kidnapping case.
Okay.
On July 4th, a second advertisement ran in the Ledger, which specifically offered a $300 reward. There were more descriptors, but Charley's name was again left out. Christian waited at the newspaper station for a response. Meanwhile, Mayor Stokely was planning for the nation's Centennial Fair to happen in 2 years in Philadelphia. And this was supposed to be a really big deal because the Civil War had just recently ended. Again, it was the centennial event. And I guess I don't know what anniversary it was, but New York was entrusted with the first World Fair level from the United States. Mm-hmm. And it really faltered. Meanwhile, London was kicking butt with their fairs. So there's a lot of pressure. And then there was also following the Panic of 1873. So the mayor kind of felt a lot of pressure thinking, now we have to, unify the entire country, have everybody feel comfortable with the economy. Plus, we need to really impress the rest of the world with how we do a party in Philly. Christian then went to Central Police Headquarters around mid-morning. And as soon as he walked in, someone came running up to him and said, I have a note. So there was a note from the kidnappers, and I'll read it. I'm not going to read all the correspondences that there were because there was actually quite a few correspondences, but I will read this first one.
Okay.
So this is Mr. Ross. Be not uneasy, you son Charley Brewster, be all writ. We has got him, and no powers on earth can deliver out of our hand. You will have to pay us before you get him from us, and pay us a big cent too. If you put the cops hunting for him, you is only defeating you own end. We has got him put so no living power can get him from us alive. If any approach is made to his hiding place, that is the signal for his instant annihilation. If you regard his life puts no one to search for him, you money can fetch him out alive, and no other existing powers. Don't deceive yourself, and think the detectives can get him from us, for that is impossible. You hear from us in few days.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of spelling issues there. Okay.
Which, that's probably not atypical for that time frame either.
No, it really wasn't, because at first I thought, well, these are uneducated people, but right. I don't think there was much education in general. Yeah. Okay, so let's see, where am I? So after receiving that letter, Christian realized he couldn't keep this information from Sarah, his wife, any longer. So
finally,
I know this is 3 days after he's gone missing. Oh. So he took his son, Walter, and traveled to Atlantic City. And I didn't write this out, but it was really sad. She was there at the door waiting for them when they got there, and they get out of the wagon. And she said, well, why didn't you bring Charley with you? And I know. So then Christian went up to her and said, hey, we need to talk.
Oh my gosh.
We've got to talk. So after he filled her in on everything, he drove home while Sarah, Walter, and Sophia, which is, again, the oldest sister, took a train back 2 days later. So now on July 6th, the second ransom letter was received, and this time they were asking for $20,000.
Oh my goodness.
Which I think is about $400,000 in today's money, according to Wikipedia.
Okay.
They threatened his death if their wishes were not carried out, which they kind of did in the first one. And just as a kind of a reference note, the president of the United States annual salary was $25,000.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So now the police force and the city officials felt if the ransom were paid, it would encourage more kidnappings, either by these guys or copycats. They also felt that if news of this were fully released, it may deter parents from coming to the Centennial Fair for fear of their own children being kidnapped.
Oh my gosh.
So they did not release what happened. So you had all these kids playing in the streets the way they used to, going down dark alleys, into the woods and wherever, and just be gone all day. And nobody ever thought that there's any potential harm.
Oh, it's terrible.
So Christian agreed with them, with their decision, even though there was, now he didn't name this individual, but at the beginning of the book, it does say that Christian and the Lewis family had family members who were politicians, and they were some of the original immigrants over to the U.S. So there was somebody who came to him, a powerful individual and a wealthy individual, that said, listen, I'll give you the $20,000, no questions asked.
Oh.
Pay the ransom, get your kid back.
Oh.
And Christian was torn because he's like, obviously, I want my child back, but like the police, like the police who know better and all of the city officials who know better, if I did this, then I'm just setting up for all the rest of the children of America to continue getting kidnapped and held for ransom.
That is a ridiculous pressure to put on yourself.
Right. So then he was like, I have to do what they're recommending. They need to find the kidnappers.
Oh, for the love.
Right. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So he thought it was immoral to let the kidnappers win. So over the next few days and weeks, correspondence continued via letters mailed to Christian and his responses in the classified section of the newspapers. Eventually, word did get out about this, and the newspapers went wild with all of this. And what's funny is the way it's written is, well, these newspapers of the day, they didn't even care if it was fact. They would just run stories if they got a hint of it. So I was just laughing. I'm like, it's kind of this media now. It's just more instantaneous today.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. And so I actually wrote down, exaggerated and even untrue stories were run despite the police captain's request for them all to stop. He knew that inaccurate information would aggravate the kidnappers, encourage vigilantes, and overall just endanger the case. So now we jump down to July 22nd.
Oh my gosh, this poor baby. That's 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Stokely offered a reward of $20,000 for the arrest and conviction of the kidnappers. And the only reason he did this is because he was getting pressure from the public. So another thing to take note of is the police were not paid well. So a lot of them would also work as a private investigator. And what they would do is they'd work as a private investigator. They'd have these, the bad guys, they'd make contact with them and they strike up a deal. So if something was stolen, say somebody stole a beautiful necklace, they would find who stole it and be like, if you pay me $3,000 for this stolen necklace, I won't tell them it was you. Or, I'll say it was you, but we can't catch you. And then they leak the information, so they're able to collect the reward for the stolen necklace. And then as a police officer, they get to make the arrest and get the glory of making the arrest. So it's very
sneaky and shady.
So shady. Okay, so now there's this $20,000 reward. And so it led to wrong leads, wrongful arrests, right, and wrong accusations. So now again, it's just like today. You have all these loonies who are reaching out to the family. I know where Charley is. You would get people who are like, I can put a spell on them if you give me this much money. You had, what are those people called? That
Psychics?
Like, psychics.
I knew what you meant. I was psychic about the
charades.
Word.
Yeah. So psychics saying this is where he is and whatever. So this is some of the crazy stuff that came up.
I have a question. So did the Centennial Fair happen already then by the 22nd?
No. So the Centennial was, so it would be 1876.
Oh, duh. Okay.
Right. But they were just
And what year did this happen?
1874. So they're taking 2 years to prepare for it.
Gotcha.
I guess kind of like how countries take forever to prepare for Olympics when they're held.
Okay.
So here's some of the crazy stuff. So police were led to identify children that did not resemble Charley at all from miles away, different states. There was a little girl that people claimed to be Charley, and they're like, this is a little girl. It's not Charley. There were children of the wrong ethnicity that people said were Charley. Parents, this is what was really sad. Parents would put their own children up as Charley so they could collect the reward.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. And they would try to convince these kids to say, my name is Charley Ross. There was one that...
Wow.
There was one family that people are like, oh, there are these 2 German-speaking adults with a child. We think it's Charley. So they went, and the child also only spoke German. So, so obviously it's their kid. There was a Native American woman holding a baby. They traveled. I think that one was out of state. They traveled to see her. And when they got there, I believe this was actually Joseph Ross, Christian's brother, took a train all the way out to her. And as soon as he got there, he's like, this child looks identical to the Native American mother that's holding him right now. There were kids of various ages, not even 4 years old. There's one, it's a little bit funny. They found this kid and they brought him to the police department, whichever police department. And they said, can you state your name, please? And they thought he said Charley Ross. And like, it's Charley Ross. It's Charley Ross. And I don't remember who identified him, but they're like, no, that's not Charley Ross. And the parents came in fuming. They're like, his name is Charley Loss. He speaks, like he had a bit of a speech impediment. He was 4.
Oh, yeah.
So he's saying Charley Ross.
Oh.
Right. So that the time that the Native American woman was holding the baby or the child, at that time there was supposed to be an exchange. There was a correspondence and they were going to exchange, drop the money off, get the true Charley. But then the newspapers had all leaks that Charley was found. His dad is on his way to, I want to say it was Virginia, but I'm not sure, on his way to this location right now to go get him. So the kidnappers see this and like, he's standing us up. He's not believing us and he's not showing up with money. So they did not show. And Christian really actually was there, like following the directions to make the money drop. And the kidnappers never were there because they thought he was on a train completely the opposite direction of where he was supposed to be going.
Oh, wow.
So this happened months later, and this is later on in the book, where they went to go identify a child, and they said, this is really Charley Ross. You just can't tell because of all of his burns. So this kid had acid that was thrown on his face to deform him. Right. And I don't know if they did that specifically to try to pawn him off as Charley Ross, or if it's just because it was evil. He was kidnapped. He actually was kidnapped. And he eventually got reunited with his family, but he had been kidnapped so long that he couldn't recall what his true name was. Oh. He had been tortured and beaten so severely that he was just like really confused. So I guess in a good way, because of the publicity of this case, inadvertently, he was able to be reunited. As soon as he saw his parents, he remembered what his name was. He knew who they were. But still, the poor kid, he had so many horrible things that happened to him. So anyway,
your story better have a happy ending. That's all I gotta say.
It's a mystery. Don't forget, it's a mystery. So as Christian anticipated, the kidnappers were not amused. Correspondence slowed, and the correspondences that he ended up receiving reflected their disapproval. They reiterated that if someone happened upon the location where Charley was kept, he would immediately be killed. So now we're going to go over to New York City. There was an area known as the Bend, which was kind of a line of saloons, not a great part of town. It was along Mulberry Street. Charles Stromberg was the owner of one of these saloons, and he took notice of 3 men who began to meet regularly at the back of his saloon. One of his saloon keepers, which I think is a bartender, his name was Henry Hartman, and he was a disgraced New York police officer. He introduced him to one of these men. So that man he introduced him to was named William Westervelt, and he was also a disgraced New York police officer. Eventually, William introduced Stromberg to the other 2 men. He called the redhead, Smith, and the man with the odd face. Once he called him Henderson, and another time he called him Anderson. And when, over time, when questioned over drinks by both Stromberg and Hartman, William would allude to things like he could receive a large reward if he gave information on people, but that information would lead to those individuals being jailed for 10 to 20 years or even life. He also mentioned if the kidnappers were caught, he believed Charley would be dead within 3 days. And so sort of alluding to the fact that he knew something. Mm-hmm. So now we're August 2nd. Superintendent of the New York Police Department, George Walling, sent a message to Chief Jones in Philadelphia. Chief of Police in Philadelphia, send detective here with original letters of kidnappers of Rothschild. Think I have some information. So 2 weeks prior to sending this telegram, Walling had learned of an interesting thing. Officer Doyle had been talking with a man who claimed that his brother kidnapped Charley Rose. The initial conversation had actually happened a few weeks even prior to Walling finding out. So probably beginning of right away in July, probably shortly after when Charley was kidnapped. So Doyle informed his superior, Captain Hedden, who was supposed to further investigate, but it didn't occur because there was some department restructuring and everything got delayed. So the informant's name was Clinton or Gil Mosher, and he claimed...
How do you get Gil from Clinton?
I don't know. And he claimed that his brother William, or Bill and Gil Mosher, he claimed his brother is the one who kidnapped Charley. So Walling brought Gil in for questioning, which was concerning enough. Once he finished all the questions, he's like, you know what? I think this actually might have something to do with the kidnapping. So that's why he telegrammed Philadelphia. So on August 3rd, Captain Hines and Joseph Ross, so there we go, there's his name, went to New York City. Walling was able to describe Bill's hand. So they talked about a bunch of things, and then he was describing Bill's handwriting, which matched. There were a few specific things, and it matched the kidnappers' handwriting. More importantly, the description of how Bill would fold paper, which everybody had noted that it was folded really oddly. And so when he described that, Joseph like slammed his hands on the table and he said, "Finally."
Wow.
But
and that's Charlie's brother, right? Joseph?
Christian's brother.
Oh, Christian. Sorry.
Yeah. Christian's brother. The police told Joseph not to tell his brother of any of this.
Why? There's no way I could keep that secret from you. Are you kidding me?
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Okay, let's see. So that was August 3rd. So on August 11th in New York, Christian and Walter Ross the 5-year-old boy, were to meet with Walling. So prior to the meeting, Captain Hedden walked with them outside and asked Walter if he could identify a man who was standing just a short distance away. Walter said no. Hedden said, "I didn't think you would know who he was. I don't believe he's one of the kidnappers, but I do believe that he is connected to the kidnapping situation, and I think that he regularly speaks with them." So then Hedden brought the two of them to Walling, who explained the Gil and Bill Mosher information. And he told them that the man that they saw on the street earlier was Bill Mosher's brother-in-law, who happened to be William Westervelt. So the guy that's been in the bar, in the back of the bar with the two other guys.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I know I had to go back through this book so many times to figure out. I ended up actually finally just taking notes of who's who.
It's like reading Game of Thrones and trying to figure out who is who instead of watching the show.
Totally. But this is real life. I hate to crush your dreams, but Game of Thrones is not real.
Jon Snow.
He's real. He's real.
And his wife is really Ingrid. I always wanted to call her Ingrid. Egret?
I think it's Egret, isn't it?
Like the bird?
It's me. It is me.
Yes, it's you.
Ingrid is correct. Okay. And so let's discuss Bill and Gil a bit. So
please.
They were sons of a successful ship captain, and they were 2 out of 16 kids.
Holy crap. See, this is why birth control is necessary.
Sorry.
Okay. Too soon?
Okay. So while also learning the boat trade, the two became river pirates. So I guess I didn't realize that there is a thing called such as river pirates. But it's exactly what pirating is. They would,
except like on a river.
Yeah. They would sail up and down the river. They'd steal things, stick them on their boat, sail down further, put them somewhere else.
Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, they took up a life of robbery and deceit. In one robbery, a cask fell on Bill's left hand, causing the skin around the nail to shrivel to a point.
Gross.
Do you recall?
The weird finger.
Yeah. The pointy finger.
Didn't he have a weird nose too?
He did.
Okay.
So Bill continued river piracy, and he took on a young apprentice named Joseph Douglas. So Joseph Douglas also went by Joseph Clark or Joseph Smith. And then, do you remember also?
Smith, the redhead. Yeah. From the bar. Yeah.
Yes. So during one of the raids, Gil ratted out Bill. I know.
Do what you will. No, that rhymes with Bill.
And Joseph and their gang. I can't remember what the name of it. It was like the Daybreak Boys or something like that. And their gang. So the group was actually caught by the police. They were literally dragged to jail with things tied around their necks.
Oh my gosh.
However, they were able to escape because I think Bill dug through the wall or something. And they kept a low profile from the next 6 years on. And Joseph even took a job as a streetcar driver. And then the two of them, go ahead. What?
Like a taxi cab driver? Streetcar?
That's what I thought.
Or
San Francisco.
In San Francisco? Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah, I actually thought the same thing. I thought a taxi, and then I realized, no, I think it's a streetcar. Like
Okay.
San Fran. So the two were reunited when Bill approached Joseph with a plan a few years. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're almost there. So word got out that the police were suspicious of Bill's involvement in the abduction of Charley. So he immediately asked William Westervelt to correspond with his wife, Martha, who is Martha Westervelt Mosher. So Martha is William's sister.
Okay.
So Bill wanted Martha to take the kids and leave the city. So they lived in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And she initially told William she would need some time. 3 days later, someone took her, 3 little boys, and a newborn girl to the police station, or not the police station, the train station. And they traveled out of town. So the Hendersons rented a home in South Philadelphia, and they sublet some of their rooms. Mr. Henderson would often be gone for days as he worked as a salesman, a peddler, and a handyman. He would return home with various odd goods. Mrs. Henderson gave birth to a baby girl soon after their latest tenant moved in. Kate Morgan was the new tenant, and she was introduced to the older 3 boys, Willie, who was 7 years old, Charlie, who is 4 years old, who they didn't call Charlie, they called him Lovey, and Georgie, who was the youngest. And the next night after the baby was born, Mr. Henderson returned home with a taller, younger friend who had red hair.
So Mr. Henderson is
Bill Mosher.
Okay. I was going to say Gil. Okay. It's Bill. All right. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So over the next 3 to 4 months, turmoil continued in the Ross Lewis family and the case. Police and city officials continued to try to manipulate the situation, the correspondences, and information. And the reason they did this is to set themselves up for glory and monetary rewards. Christian became extremely ill because he couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, because Charley was still missing. I mean, he even was like bedridden at one point. So because he was so ill, Sarah went to her brothers and asked them for help. And they said, you know what? We're done with the police. We're done with the city officials. We have the means, because they were very successful. They had the money.
Okay.
And like, we're paying the ransom. We're getting Charley back now.
Okay.
December 13th, Joseph Douglas Clark Smith, whatever you want to go, met with William Westervelt. So Joseph became very tormented about what to do, because as everything was happening, the media was releasing the police are getting close. Mm-hmm. They were getting alerts from different people that they had throughout the city, like, hey, the cops are looking for you. And so, and you could tell also with the correspondences, the letters that they were sending to Christian, they were becoming more like, hey, we need to do this now. You need to give us the money now. We're going to go to Europe. We need the money now. And the police rightfully were like, they're not going to Europe. They don't have money. They're broke crooks. They don't have the funds to go there. So don't worry about that part. So anyway, you could tell that they were getting really like jittery and everything. So Joseph was trying to figure out what to do. He thought maybe I could flee the country, but he didn't have any contacts anywhere to help him out with. Like, he was a local burglar or whatever. So he had good contacts here, but nowhere else. He figured he could rat out Bill and attempt to collect the reward, but then he realized he would most likely get arrested while doing so. Mm-hmm. Plus, Gil had leaked all that information about them months before, and Gil still had not received any amount of money. And so his final plan was to persuade or bribe William Westervelt to help him get an immunity plan with the police. So if he were to turn in Bill, he would get immunity. At this point, he's like, I don't even care about the money anymore.
Wow.
I need out of this because something's about to go down.
Okay.
So he met with William that night. They walked along, they talked, they passed out, and they agreed that they would get together another time to talk about things. So the next day, December 14th, Joseph met up with Bill. And they met early in the morning to kind of plan out their plans for the rest of the night of how they were going to burglarize a bunch of houses. So they got together that evening. I think it was around 9:00 at night. And they made their way down the street, and they were trying out different homes or avoiding others. Like, okay, the lights are on there. We have to skip that house or whatever. So they found a cottage-looking home. They broke in, and it looked like it was probably a vacation home. So they thought, great, we're cool here. They turn on the lights, and they began to look for items to steal when Joseph heard a key in the back door. So they quickly turned off the lights, and they ran down to the cellar, and they pulled the trap door closed over them. And then they were hiding down there, and they heard what sounded to be like 4 men walking around above them. And then the cellar door opened.
Oh.
And then so everybody starts shooting.
What?
Yeah. There's just shooting. People just start shooting.
Okay.
So then Bill took off running upstairs, and Joseph heard someone yell, "There he is, give it to him." Then he heard more gunshots. And Joseph then kind of slowly starts to walk upstairs, and he's holding his gun. And as he gets up, somebody shoots him in his chest and then his head.
Ooh.
And then he was still able to stumble outside. Meanwhile, when Bill had run upstairs, he got shot, and he muttered, "I give up," just before he fell face down. So now Joseph is shot up. He's outside. And let's see, where am I? This is like the climax of the whole freaking thing. He eventually, then he fell to the ground, and a bunch of people surrounded him, and people were jeering him. "This is what you get," and whatever. And then eventually he asked for whiskey. Everybody laughed at him. You can't have whiskey. Then somebody tried to give him a little bit of water, and he couldn't drink the water. So he finally just said, "You know what? It's too late to keep lying. I was part of the kidnappers of Charley Ross. I was one of the kidnappers." And
Dang.
the crowd asked him where he was, and he said, "I don't know, but Bill knows." And they're like, "Bill's dead." And he goes, No, he's not. He's not dead." So they had to lift him up so he could see Bill's dead body laying there. So then he said, "Oh, well, Walling, the superintendent of the New York police, Walling knows. And Charley will be returned home." And then he asked for a priest. He asked for God to forgive him. And then he died at approximately 5:00 in the morning.
Wow.
Walling sent a telegram to Philadelphia that day. And
wait, question. So were the 4 men, was that part of the family?
No, that was just people that they broke into like their house, or it was one of the other houses and they followed them or something. I can't remember. So it's just totally separate.
Random. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So the next day, Peter, the gardener that had noticed so many details about this, along with Walter Ross, were brought to New York City, and they were able to identify Joseph Douglas and Bill Mosher as the 2 men who took them. They had to go to the morgue. Poor Walter started crying. I mean, he's seen dead bodies.
Oh, baby.
But he saw his nose and his finger, and he's like, "That's definitely him."
Okay.
So they thought that his nose, it had to do with like syphilis or some other disease. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, gross. So
syphilis makes your nose look funny?
I don't know. I mean, I was like, was it cocaine?
Maybe you like tried to cut it off. Doesn't syphilis make you crazy?
Right. Yeah. You meant who had
Al Capone.
Remember, I always say Al Pacino.
Yes, that's why I cut you off.
Thank you.
Okay.
So anyway, immediately after their deaths, there's, of course, the police and Mayor Stokely were heralded as heroes because Walling was like, I knew this was happening. We were investigating it. We were just keeping everything quiet. We didn't want the media to know. But in the same time, he's having to defend himself. Like, why was I named as somebody who knew where Charley was?
Right.
And then they were following up on all these leads. They're questioning the wives, everything. So William Westerveld was arrested as being kind of an accomplice, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That's the guy in the bar that drank with him, right? That guy.
Yeah. Okay. Bill Mosher's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
So then kidnapping became a felony as opposed to a misdemeanor in 1875.
I'm sorry. It was a misdemeanor?
It was a misdemeanor, and it was like, I don't know. It was a really minimal amount of money and a minimal amount of time served. I think even when it became a felony, it was only like $5,000 fine and maybe 15 years. I can't remember.
Huh.
It's
wow.
Anyway. But then they also made it to where you would get fined and jail time if you were found to be an accomplice to kidnapping, which I think before that wasn't the case.
Okay.
So after this, again, you get all the loonies that were sending letters saying, I know where Charley is. People trying to claim it. This is when they found that child that had acid put on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And Christian Ross regained his health, and he and his wife, Sarah, he actually wrote a book and he would do lectures. And he and Sarah continued searching for Charley until their deaths. And even nearly 60 years later, a man claimed he was Charley and he said that he had been hidden in a cave that entire time. And he came to his brother Walter. Was like, I'm your brother. And he's like, no, you're not. I know you're not. So Charley Ross was never found.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the mysterious part, is what happened to him.
That is absolutely devastating.
Right. I mean, it sounded like he was with that family. The wife,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That had the newborn baby girl.
Right. And I don't know, because later when they talked to that wife, she said something about only having 2 children. And she said the older boys died. So they were thinking that Georgie and the little girl were still alive, but then was it Willie? Willie and Charley had died. But there wasn't any more information on that.
Wow.
I know. Isn't it horrible?
It is.
I hope yours is nicer.
Mine has nothing to do with people. So maybe it's good we end on mine.
Maybe. Oh, yeah. We probably should have talked about that before.
All I can picture is my son, and I would lose my mind.
Well, I kept picturing my sons because my 2 are so close in age like that. And, at the beginning, they would talk about how Charley looked up to Walter, even though Walter was only a year older than him. Mm-hmm. He did everything Walter said. And freaking Walter, to have the wherewithal at 5 years old to realize they're going a weird route to say, like, can you point out some of the landscape to me?
Yeah.
So the saying, don't take candy from a stranger, came from this story.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Because these guys,
I didn't realize it's been around that long.
These guys were clearly grooming them,
Mm-hmm.
offering them candy. And the entire ride, when Charley would start crying, they're like, here's some candy, here's some candy, here's some candy, here's some candy.
Yeah.
To keep him quiet.
I'm glad it didn't take like a super, super dark turn.
Well, right. I started doing, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't even know why he was I was so, not that it's a good thing, but I was so relieved to find out that this was truly just a kidnapping story.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like as this goes along, they talk about how, kidnapping usually happened for ransom or for trafficking. And so, but this is like the first truly documented kidnapping in the United States.
In that book, did they talk, did any additional, current police or anyone in law enforcement talk about the procedures of what they did back then and what they would do differently now?
No, they didn't. And there are a few books. There is a book written by Charley Ross about this. But I was looking at the reviews on Amazon about which book to get. And I was like, this one sounds like it might be a little bit easier, more enjoyable to read. And it was good, good details about so many things. That's what the book is freaking long. It's not the craziest long, but there's so much detail. She goes into she goes into so much detail about planning for the Centennial Party, which is important because it gives you the character building of the city officials and the police on why they're doing things the way they're doing.
So I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
We are getting into past an hour for your story. So what if we break it up into 2, and then our listeners will still have an additional episode, and then we still have our time off.
Oh, they're going to be so happy that they get to hear our voices, even though we said 2 weeks off.
Well, I didn't realize yours was going to be so long, and I didn't
mean for it to be.
No, you're fine. It was very interesting. The only thing that hard was keeping track of all the names and not confusing them in my head.
Right.
That was it.
Well, because so many of the names are so similar too.
Right,
There's
right.
William and Walter and another Walter and
I guess we could
Charley.
see how long mine is. Mine's not that long.
Why don't we just split it up? I mean, people don't need to listen to a 2-hour podcast. People don't want to listen to a 2-hour podcast.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Hug your babies tight. Don't let them take candy from strangers.
Right. I mean, there's so many things have changed since then, but just be careful.
Yeah.
Oh, little babies.
Sweet baby angels.
Okay. So again, we go over this in our little blurb at the end, but you can follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, check out our website, anothersituationpodcast.com for a link to all the episodes, link to all the big players. You can see our guests. Most of our guests have provided a bio. Let's see what else.
We listen and pay attention to you. So thank you all for listening. And you can hear me tell my mystery next week.
Right. So give us feedback. We'll follow it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to reach out to us or submit your situation, please contact us at anothersituationpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Another Situation Podcast. We're also on Facebook at Another Situation.
Another Situation is produced and edited by Point 5 Pinoy. Music is written and performed by Tim Crow.